on Power Mornings on 108 Praise Radio. And we are back. It's another week, and we're excited to be back this morning. Good morning. I hope you're having a wonderful Monday morning. If not, we hope to help you have a wonderful Monday morning. So this morning we are going to start our mental health series this month. Hopefully we will do it about 4 weeks. We may even do it longer, maybe about 6 weeks, depending on how everything goes. But today we're going to have our guest in the studio here in a moment. Licensed professional counselor Latricia Pitts will be in to talk with us about depression and anxiety this morning. And so we're going to jumpstart our discussion off on mental health this morning about depression and anxiety. But before we get into it, we are going to go into our prayer and inspiration this morning. So we're going to come from Romans 12:2 this morning. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Again, that's the New Living Translation version of Romans 12:2. And we're going to pray this morning. Lord, we ask you to just come in right now, Lord, and just renew our minds, Lord. Give us a mind of Christ this morning. We ask that you touch every human being this morning that is dealing with any type of illness or disease, whether it be mental, physical, emotionally, or spiritual this morning. We ask that you touch their bodies, Lord. Touch their mind. Let them know that you have the peace that surpasses all understanding. Let them know that you are a healer. You are a deliverer. You are a renewer in the spirit and in the mind, Lord. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We ask that you just give them wisdom and knowledge to understand that with prayer and fasting, through fasting and praying, that they can overcome any disease that is ailing their bodies and their minds today, Lord. We ask you that they have understanding of what this illness is for people who are caring for them or people who are helping them in the battle, Lord. We ask you to touch every physician, every therapist, every caretaker, and give them patience, knowledge, and wisdom and understanding as they walk this walk with a person who is dealing with any type of mental illness or disease, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's psychological, physiological, mental, social, neurological, any type of element that is battling anyone at this time, Lord. We ask you come in and just give them the healing that they need for their body today, Lord. We pray this in Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. So this morning, again, we are going to start our mental health series this week. And my guest has come into the studio. You can come on in. And we're going to have a conversation on depression and anxiety here. Hey, good morning. So, come on in and have a seat. You can sit right here. Again, the number this morning is 478-787-0993. 478-787-0993. If you want to call in and have a conversation about this, we would love to hear from you as we get set up here. All right. Good morning. So Latricia Pitts, licensed professional counselor, is with us this morning. Again, like we said, we're going to talk about depression and anxiety to start the series off. I thought that was a good way to start. I think a lot of people battle with depression and don't understand what they're dealing with. I know I've battled with depression for years. Generationally, I would say. My mother suffered, my grandmother suffered, even though we didn't call it depression back then. We just called it like a nervous breakdown, right? They just have a breakdown but it's depression. I think mine is mostly seasonal. winter times, I get the blues, different reasons. So we can talk about the different types of depression. What is depression? Let's start there.
Well, depression is basically a mood disorder. And like you said, there are various types of depression. So you have major depression, then you have seasonal depression. Like you said, like it's generally comes, like you said, in the wintertime, and it's very predictable because the sun is, back in, you tend to isolate, you stay in the house.
I don't want to move. I hibernate. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing to do. You definitely don't want to isolate because it definitely will increase your depression. So, and depression and anxiety tend to go together as well.
So what is anxiety? Because I think a lot of times we do a lot of catch-all phrases. Mm-hmm. We throw bipolar around a lot. We throw, all these different names around, not really understanding what we're saying to people. Mm-hmm. And then I have to be careful, even as a therapist, of saying things like crazy. Mm-hmm. Calling people crazy and different things. So we have to be careful of the words that we say to people because we don't know who's dealing with what. But what would you say is anxiety?
Anxiety is really when you are overwhelmed and like really, really worried. Okay. So you're kind of on edge. Some anxiety have panic attacks.
Okay.
So it's being really nervous, and so the term, like you said, to say crazy is not a good term to use because that's like part of the stigma that keeps people from coming to therapy.
Exactly.
But you can have anxiety from taking a test. So there's a healthy amount of anxiety that you have, but when it starts affecting your functioning, that's what the issue is. So if you have a problem that comes up and you get a bit nervous, that's anxiety, but it's not overwhelming and it's not affecting your ability to function. Right. But when you have anxiety and you can't focus, you're having panic attacks, you can't think clearly, then that's when it's an issue.
And that's the definition of mental illness, basically. When something is, when you're no longer able to cope or deal with life as usual, or as normal, that's when you then are diagnosed with a mental illness. And I think a lot of people, again, take that word out or take those words out of context because we don't understand that. We just think we're supposed to go along with stress, and you're just supposed to be able to handle whatever's thrown at you, but you can only do so much, and so and depending on your level of tolerance is what you can take. And so a lot of people don't, I think a lot of times, like you said, we don't talk about it enough. People don't understand the definition of what and people don't know what they're looking at. I say that all the time. People do not know what they're looking at when they look at mental illness. That's just Pookie. Pookie been acting that way since he was 5 years old. Right. That's just Shay Shay. Shay Shay been acting crazy since she was 2. That's just what she do. But they don't understand that they're acting out for a reason. They're crying out for help. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to help themselves, and you don't know how to help them. So that's a lot of times why we do.
And it's also a lot of symptoms overlap. So, if you're bipolar, you can have depressive episodes, but that doesn't mean you have depression. You may be bipolar.
That's
so
true.
You could be depressed and you have other symptoms. So it's like you really need to go to a professional.
Comorbid disease. I mean, what is it when it's 2 or more? You know what I'm saying? I lost my train of thought, but go ahead. Go ahead. I don't cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, but you really need to go to a professional to get diagnosed because you can have some symptoms of a disorder. However, it doesn't mean you actually have it. And I think a lot of people are fearful, like, oh my gosh, like I'm sad today, I'm depressed.
Right.
I have depression. And it takes an extended period of time to be diagnosed with depression. So if you're having a bad day and you're sad, it doesn't mean you have depression. Or if your pet died and you're sad, like that is circumstantial. So it doesn't mean you have depression, but either you underdiagnosed or you overdiagnosed.
That's true.
So I'm having mood swings. Oh, she's just bipolar.
Right.
Like, no, that's not the case.
Right. Very true. I think, and again, that's what I'm saying. We don't know what we're looking at. We don't understand mental illness. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, like you said, we either do one or two things. We either underdiagnose or overdiagnose. And people don't want to do the work. That's what I say.
Well, I think a lot of times it's just the stigma in going
Attached
to
to it.
therapy. And so people are like, well, like you said, they're crazy. Or we don't go to therapy. We just go talk to Jesus. And, you just
Pray
pray
about
away,
it. Just pray about it, yeah.
And then that's it. And definitely going to Jesus is definitely a priority. However, you still need practical tools to overcome certain issues. So there are people that are put in your life and treatments that are put in your life that are a blessing. So not to disregard getting help from someone, because God works through people and people are vessels. So just like you can go to your primary physician
Right.
and get assistance, you can go to your therapist and get assistance, because God works through therapists too. So.
Right, just exactly. And I think people need to understand sometimes it takes both. Don't stop praying. We're not saying stop praying. We're just saying at the same time, until you have a name for it, until you can identify what you're dealing with, then you know what to pray for and ask for healing from. But if you don't even know what you're battling, how can you ask for healing from something you don't even know what you're dealing with? If you haven't even been given a diagnosis? So that's most of the time what the case is that we lump everything together a lot of times. And so, I've dealt with this before, it's just this, or grandmama had this, it's just this, and she did that and it seemed to work. And then I think a lot of times grandmothers, they really did us injustice, because they were super women, right? They did it all, and so, or it appeared that they did it all, right? And so we look and we believe that we're supposed to be able to handle those same type of burdens without getting upset or without getting bogged down, and it just doesn't work like that.
Right, and grandma, she may have been superwoman, but when she went to bed at night, was she sobbing in her room, the things that you weren't able to see?
That's true.
The stress levels that she had. So I think there is a lot of pressure to be, superwoman, to handle everything. You handle finances, children, occupation, everything.
Everything, yes.
And, you need to have a work-life balance, that you can have a spiritual life, you can have a work life, you can have a social life. And I think when those things are out of balance, that creates a lot of stressors that could actually trigger some of the depressive symptoms that you may have. Because when you're depressed, you are fatigued.
Yes.
You lose interest in things. You're forgetful, and it's like, what is going on with her? Like,
right.
Yeah. You think, oh, I'm just tripping, or I'm having an off day. But if you're having an off day every day,
right, over a period of time. Let's talk about that period of time, because that's how we determine, how to diagnose people is stages of time depending on what you're dealing with. So with depression, what's the time frame? If you have, go ahead. I'm gonna let you do it.
With depression, major depression, it's generally if you have the same symptoms as far as fatigue, loss of interest, hopelessness, worrying, those things for at least 2 weeks, then you can reach the diagnosis for depression. But it varies for different types of depression.
Okay.
Because you also have postpartum depression. So after you have a child, and so it's different. That's why it's important to come in to get diagnosed, because you want to see specifically, one, if you do have depression and which type of depression that you have, and understanding when you receive a diagnosis, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes people think, I don't want to be labeled, or it's something's wrong with me. It's the end of the world. And it's like, you're just unique. It's just something different that you have to learn to accept. And you can still thrive in life. You can still function. You can exceed your wildest expectations, but you need to face whatever it is that you're dealing with and move forward. But a lot of times, people will fight it. I'm not going to see anyone, or, they're not going to call me crazy. Right. Or these things, so you continue to just struggle and struggle and struggle, so your quality of life is very poor.
I think we beat ourselves up, again, because society had told us, you're supposed to be able again to do all these things, and so it's like you're just lazy or get it together. You know what I'm saying? And so you kind of do that self-talk thing. And I know even for me as a therapist, I did not want to deal with saying that I had depression for a long time because I refused to take medication. And so it was a big thing for me because I'm like, and so, cohort, a friend of mine challenged me on that. Like, how can you help your client if you won't do what you need to do, what's necessary for you to do? And I was like, well, again, dealing with my own stereotypes, with my own stigmas behind mental illness, and I work in this field. But what I was thinking was, if I get this diagnosis attached to me as a therapist, you understand what doors does it close for me? And I don't like taking medication. I don't want to take medication every day. So I went holistically. I got some, natural.
John's wort. Is that what it is?
No, I had. Oh man, I can't even think the name. No, it was some other things. But John's wort was suggested, but I didn't do John's wort. I'll think of them in a minute. But and they did help me, concentration wise, just more energy to get up and do things. My thing was like lack of energy, really, just no motivation. Drive and no motivation to do anything. My mind was moving, but my body was like, I'm not moving. And so, but really just getting clear about what I wanted and getting good with me, being happy with myself, really turned that around for me. I can honestly say. I think I was more in a depression because I was trying to please people, if that makes sense. And so I was living in this world just trying to do so much for everybody else and not taking care of myself. Self-care, as we talk about all the time. So I definitely understand why people don't want to take medication and why they don't want to have a diagnosis, but it's so needed. Now, I did see a therapist. I saw a therapist, I ain't gonna say regularly, but periodically, throughout the year I would go as needed. And still do. But I'm just saying I didn't want to take medication.
See, and the thing about medication, a lot of people don't want to take medication. And I tell people, would you tell a diabetic not to take their insulin?
That's true.
Yeah. So if you just happen to be one of those people that need medication, you just need medication. So there isn't a difference in that, because you would tell someone who's diabetic, you better take your insulin.
Right.
You wouldn't say, oh, don't take it because of the stigma of you
and
having
take it and then do other things that's needed to help you get off the medication. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it was funny when I came into the field, I was so pro therapy, no medication,
me too.
But once you get in the field, you realize like some people really need
they have
medication.
to have it. Yes.
And everyone is different. So it's like, well, if you're one of those people that could just use psychotherapy and function, that's fine. But you may be one of those people that just require medication, and that's okay. And
it is, and listen to me, it is okay. I'm just telling you, like, I was definitely against it. Even, you know what I'm saying, even as a therapist, even as a student, going to school for therapy, I was like, But I get it, and depending on what's going on in the brain, the chemicals in the brain, some people need medication so you can help with that, because depending on what is happening in the brain, serotonin, all these different things that's going on in the brain, if they are not functioning right or giving you the right amount of doses, you have to have some medication to help boost that up. And so it's important that we understand that, and I think a lot of times we don't explain that well, maybe.
And the thing about it is, if you have medication, the best thing is to have therapy as well. So you don't want to just take medication and you don't use any therapy to go with it, because what happens is you will take your medication and that will boost the levels, but whatever issues that you have
that you're dealing with,
you haven't resolved them.
They're
still there. So when you stop taking that medication, you're not able to cope and function as effectively as you could if you were to work through those things through therapy. So sometimes people actually only need to get on medication temporarily.
That's right.
So you get on medication temporarily and you go to talk therapy and you learn coping skills and you start to address the underlying issues and you learn about self-care, and then you do things that will boost those levels that the medication is providing. So just exercising.
Eating
correct.
Definitely food. I'm a big advocate for food. I believe that food is a contributor to, a lot of the mental health problems that we see today. And so definitely sugar, is huge. Just our diet alone. But absolutely, take your medication, take it correctly, take it as prescribed. Don't overtake it. Don't undertake it. Take it for the amount of time that they told you to take it for. It's amazing. Like, I had a client, he was like, I've been dealing with anxiety, so I take more. And I said, no, you're counteracting the problem. And then you said, I feel worse. Yeah, because now you've set your body into a motion. Like, you're now, you know what I'm saying? Like, now your body is trying to do double the work. Not only that, but you put yourself back in the position as if you haven't taken anything when you overtake it. And I was trying to explain to him. He was like, oh, that's why I feel that way. Yeah, that's why you feel that way. Because you took 5 instead of 1. And I'm like.
And another thing as well is, I always find is really hilarious, is because people will start coming to therapy, people will start taking the medication.
God, yes.
And it was like, I feel good. I stopped taking my medication. And it's like, well, you do realize you feel better because you took the medication. So they'll stop taking the medication. It's like, I feel great, so I'm not going to take it anymore.
Right.
And then they'll start to feel bad again. So it's like, well, I don't know why I feel so bad. You feel bad because you stopped taking the medication. And with the medication, right, in therapy, you have to continue to use the tools that work. Because if you stop using those tools, you're going to
go back to where you were. Exactly. It's like going in a circle.
Thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was going to say something. Yep. Okay, so it's 6:30 a.m. Atlanta time, Eastern time here. And we are, again, it's Motivational Mondays here on Power Up Mornings with Professor Kiba Green. And we're talking about mental health this month. Well, the month is almost over, but for the next few weeks, we're going to talk about mental health. And we have our guest here with us today, Latricia Pitts, who is a licensed professional counselor. So she's sharing with us today about depression and anxiety. And it's amazing that you said that because, yes, that's what happens a lot. And it can be frustrating to a therapist on the other end, because what happens a lot of time is, even just plain therapy, even just talk therapy, you come in with a situation, a crisis, and you start getting help and you start feeling better and you feel like you've overcome I made it over the hump, thank you so much, and then you stop. And you're like, people only want to come to therapy when they're in a crisis. Well, it's a reason you're in a crisis. It didn't happen overnight, usually. It didn't just instantaneously happen. It took time. It's a process. It's usually years, or maybe even came from childhood issues. So it's something that has to be treated and take time to deal with. It's not going to happen in about 4 to 6 weeks, people, usually.
Right.
Unless it's something that, like I said, some people can do grief therapy and things like that. If they've lost a pet or if they lost a friend or something, they can do maybe 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the situation, and they can be okay. But most people,
it's over an extended period of time. And I tell people all the time, I said, just because you moved on doesn't mean you've healed. So a lot of times people feel like, oh, well, I don't think about it anymore. I've moved on. It's not an issue. And it is an issue. You just try to avoid the issue. Yeah. So you try to suppress those emotions.
That's it.
And generally things are going to come out one way or the other. So you can keep keeping everything in and internalizing everything, but it has to come out. And generally when it comes out, it's in a negative way.
Right.
So you want to be proactive and make sure that you continue to come to therapy and address those underlying issues. But therapy is not easy.
Right.
And, people are generally, a lot of times people are scared to come to therapy because of the stigma that is attached to it. Then it's like, I don't want to go to therapy and come talk to some stranger, tell my business and all these things. But we're held to ethical codes. We can't just go out and tell people's business. We can't go talk to the receptionist. We can't go talk to someone in the street. If I see you in the grocery store, we're not going to be huddled up in the corner talking about, ooh, girl, what she said in session. Or
even address you with it in public.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
I actually, as part of my informed consent, I will not even speak to my clients.
Right.
I will not initiate contact. I'll walk right. If you don't say anything to me, I will not say anything to you because I don't want to compromise your privacy and your confidentiality. So if you speak to me, I definitely will speak back, but I would never, walk up to you and be like, hey, how are you doing? Because
Right.
if you're with someone, they may not know that you're in therapy.
That's right.
And it could be very uncomfortable because they're like, who is that? And then at that point, you either have to lie or say it's my therapist.
Right.
And it's just very uncomfortable. So everything that happens within therapy and in that room stays within that room. And I think
Absolutely.
that's important for a lot of people to know. Like, there's no judgment. You can come in there and say all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Things I've heard.
Okay.
Honestly, I said, I tell people, if you can surprise me, I think you might get an award because I've heard
Everything. Yeah, that's for real.
And there's never any judgment because the goal of therapy is to teach you not to need me. So I need you to heal and learn coping skills and process through your issues so that you won't need me. It's not something that some people do need long-term therapy,
Right.
but it's not supposed to be something that you continue for the rest of your life unless that's just something chronic. Now,
Right.
checking in and follow up every now
I was
and
going to say,
again,
or just self-care. Just
Yeah.
self-care, right.
but not a weekly thing
Right.
for years
Right.
unless it's something particular that's very, very severe.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to work through and process those issues, but I found it interesting that you said in the as a therapist that you didn't want to address your depression
Yeah.
and the stigma attached. But the thing about it is, it's so amazing that being in this field, it has a way of forcing you to address.
Oh, you got to look at yourself.
Issues. And I know part of our program, they wanted you to go to therapy
Right.
before you even graduated so you can address your
Right.
issues because you need to be self-aware of what you have going on so you don't transfer that onto clients.
Right.
And so it was very interesting. I always say every good therapist has a therapist.
Everyone, I promise you. Yes.
I have a therapist.
I do.
And
I
love
do.
her dearly.
Yes, me too.
Because you can't take on everyone else's issues and not think you
Every
won't be
day.
affected.
Yeah, that's right.
So you need to go to have a therapist so you can debrief and kind of, have that outlet of self-care for yourself. So if as therapists, that's something we need to do. Don't you think as
Everybody,
just regular,
right.
everyday
Yes,
people,
yes.
You're faced with all the challenges of life that you need someone as well that you can kind of go and confide into and get some objective help and just help you manage different situations. So the thing about going to therapy, I think a lot of times when you're in a program, it's like, well, are they going to want me to be a therapist after they know, I'm going through these issues? But everyone has issues.
Everybody has issues. Yeah.
Everyone, whether it's in the home, church, school, teachers, it's just the ability to function with those issues
Right.
and manage in a healthy way. And I think that's the most important goal is your ability to function and move forward in a positive way.
Absolutely. And so I thought I was functioning, like all people do, right? They think that I'm going through school, I'm doing everything. You think you're functioning, but other people can see things that you try to hide. You know what I'm saying? So it was good, and like I said, I did address it, and I still do continually address it, as needed. It's definitely something that was hard for me to confront. I didn't want to admit that I had an issue. I really did. I was like, I'm good.
And part of the thing when you have to address your own issues, not only does that build your testimony,
Yeah.
but it also makes you a better
Therapist, it does.
Because generally when you go to therapy, you can't fake it. Your clients can tell if you're being genuine or not. So if they're telling you about an issue and you're like, I've never experienced that in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never had a struggle. They look at you like, why are you playing with me? Like,
I wasn't never that girl, though. I wasn't never that type of therapist. The good thing is I truly believe that you attract who you are. And the one good thing about it, no matter, it's just amazing how God works because every client shows you yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So even in trying to hide, you always got somebody who shows you, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to deal with that because I see that. And so that makes you go do your work. So again, you can help them do their work if you are really serious about your craft, whatever that craft is. But, this to me is my life. This is my livelihood. It's not even what I wanted to do. It's what I was called to do, seriously. And so I have no choice but to do my work. Mm-hmm. I have to do my work in order to help other people. And so it's important that as therapists, like you said, that we go to therapy. Please get you a therapist if you don't have a therapist. I can only take my client as far as I'm willing to go. Mm-hmm. And so that's important. But as we said, I was reading 1 in 5 people are diagnosed with a mental illness in America, and 1 in 5 are medicated, which I think is getting less than that. I think it's like 1 in 3 now or something. And children as young as 2 are being diagnosed with mental health issues, which I think is kind of crazy. What you think?
Actually, I know of toddlers getting diagnosed and receiving treatment, and it's through play therapy, of course.
Right.
I think it can be beneficial to a certain extent. Diagnosing that early, I'm not particularly fond of because they're still developing.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to have a practical diagnosis unless it's something like
and then we only
as far as
see
like a mental disability versus mental health diagnosis.
I think that we only see kids starting at 6, right?
Yeah.
With like you say, in actual talk therapy, but play therapy can be as early as, I guess, 2 now.
Yeah.
And I actually love play therapy. I took play therapy. I love play therapy, so I think it's great. But I think, like you said, diagnosis is pretty sketchy. That's a button that's kind of hard.
Well, I think a lot of times people are concerned about their privacy and what that attachment to a diagnosis would mean for them professionally, because privately, no one knows that diagnosis, but I know in certain jobs you will be required to reveal if you have a certain diagnosis. And so that's why a lot of times people choose to go through therapists and pay privately.
Cash, yes.
Because if you pay privately, you don't have to have a diagnosis, versus if you use your insurance, then the insurance requires that you have a diagnosis
in order to pay. That's right.
And so if you're like a pilot or some military,
yes,
some elite status people, or just some people who just really are concerned about their privacy, they do private pay, so that way they don't have to deal with that. But everything is confidential. So if you need help, you just get the help that you need. Because if you can't function, it doesn't matter if you have a diagnosis or not, because how are you going to be able to maintain that job?
You're not going to be able to keep the job anyway. Yes, that's true. I know that I am a cash private, paying therapist for that reason.
Right.
And so, and when we started out, we decided to do that because we were dealing with substance abuse in a lot of cases. And so a lot of people just want to go through, treatment, 6-12 weeks, mandatory drug treatment, and get their certificate and go in order to get their license or whatever they need to do. So it wasn't like people don't want a diagnosis, like you said. They don't want that attached to them and carrying on for the rest of their life. So that's one reason why I chose to do it. Second reason is because, again, like you said, with managed care today and the way that the healthcare system is, it's a lot of things that go into insurance and diagnosis and all of that. So I chose to go the route of private pay only clients. And so I understand, but we have to do what we have to do.
Yes, and definitely I do private pay as well. And I'm also certified in addiction and anger management and marriage and family therapy. So I have a plethora of specialties so that I can help people with as well.
So let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, so we were saying 1 in 5 diagnosed, which I think is increasing, and 1 in 5 medicated. People are medicated in the United States. And so 66% of churches do not address mental health. That's what the stats say. That's probably what we know. We don't know if that's factual, but that's what they say. So if we're not dealing with this in the church, if we're not dealing with this where majority of us go for help and for prayer, and so how do we get out to the people that the necessity of seeking help?
I think just by having
this type of dialogue.
Yes, this type of dialogue, different community events. I know for me personally, That was something that God put on my heart, because I would have clients to come in that have been in turmoil literally for years, and finally they broke down going against their preacher or their mom or family members. It's like, look, I can't take it anymore. Like, this is not working. I don't even know where I am in my faith, because I've been praying and I still feel this way and things haven't changed. So one day, I just kind of like a pebble in my shoe, and I kept having this phrase like, God works through therapists too. God works through therapists too. And so I was trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between church and mental health. And I was like, I'm going to do my first t-shirt.
Love it, love it.
So I came up with my first t-shirt idea is God works through therapists too, because it was something that was simple to break the stigma and start a dialogue.
A conversation about it.
Yeah. So you can address it, because the thing about it is people experience a lot of church hurt.
Yes.
And so they go to the church because I need help and I'm going through these things, and they don't get practical tools to kind of help them, and understanding that just because you go to therapy does not mean you have to subtract God, because most of my clients in session, we work on spirituality, because if that's something that's important to you,
right.
I don't classify myself as a Christian counselor.
Yeah.
However, I cater my sessions to the client. So if you're a spiritual person, if you're a Christian, I'm going to go off those Christian principles in session, and I'm going to help you strengthen your faith, because that's what we're going to pull from. If you're saying that you're experiencing some depression or you're experiencing hurt, okay, we're going to look at practical therapeutic tools, but we're also going to pull from spiritually. What are your principles that you believe in that we can incorporate into therapy? So oftentimes when people come to therapy, it actually strengthens their faith more than it does to take it away. I think people feel in the community or the church community, it's like, well, it's either church or it's therapy, and it's not. It's both. And it's going to take time to break that stigma. It's going to take a lot of dialogue. It's going to take pastors embracing the fact that mental health is important and try to bridge that gap. So when they come in for pastoral counseling and Christian counseling, understanding these are some things that we can do spiritually, but there's also some practical things that we can do. And we can figure out what works best for you. And God's love is not going to change based on you attending therapy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think more pastors are becoming more, educated and aware of what it takes to help their congregation deal with mental illness. As we know now, well, as I see, a lot of pastors are going back to get that counseling piece to add to their divinity, and so, or theological degree. And so I hope and I pray that, it's helping people, because we have more churches now who are deciding to have counseling centers and those type of things. And so I pray that, they are addressing the needs of the congregation, because if you have a sick, hurting congregation, how can you really save souls and bring souls to Christ? And you can't even get through. Right. You can't get through to them to even get them to get what they have to get what they need to go to, to pray. And are you praying? It's almost praying aimlessly. You know what I mean? At that point, so
because it's important to be practical, because God wants you happy and whole.
Yes, He wants the best for you.
And if you're not whole, and if you're depressed and sad, how can you get out and minister to other people? How can you use your gift to help others when you're too busy in the bed or you're isolated? Right. So there's a gift God has put in your heart and your calling in life that you should be doing, that you cannot pursue under those circumstances. And that's really, people say that's the trick of the devil, distraction, things of that nature. It really is, because if I can keep you distracted because you worried, get anxiety, stressed out, you have social anxiety, you can't talk to people, then that keeps you from telling that testimony, because there's some things that you've been through that you can share with others that can help bring them through and help bring them closer to Christ. But if you're distracted and you're hurting, you can't do that. And I would say, personally, I have never been the one that wanted to get in front of crowds and speak to people and on the radio today. But it is my calling in life. And everyone's like, are you nervous? I'm like, no.
This is what I do.
This is what God has called me to do. He's called me to be a therapist. And He's called me to bridge the gap between churches and mental health. So it's like, I prayed before I came here. I said, Lord, let the words come out of my mouth the way you would have them and let it reach who it needs to reach. And I pray and I'm confident that that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And so, but if you're distracted with depression, anxiety, or any mental issue, that's going to distract you from doing what you can do to honor God and to be the best version of you.
Of yourself. That's right. So you had some notes for me today? What you have over there? You want to share?
Oh, no, it was just some notes in case I forgot some stuff.
Okay.
But I did want to say that to this month, September, is National Suicidal Awareness Month.
We're going to do that next week.
Okay, so I did write down the 1-800 number because part of depression, people tend to feel hopeless,
yes,
and helpless and worthless, which generally it could potentially lead to someone committing suicide. So I did write down the National Suicide Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255. Once again, that's the National Suicide Hotline. And it's something to take
800-273-8255.
And that's something to take very seriously, because some people, and I've had parents who, their kids would say, they're suicidal. Oh, they just want attention.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll be all right. We're just going to pray on it. And it's like, that is something that you do not play with. That is something that you need to intervene immediately, because they're not saying it just for decoration. And you'd rather be safe than sorry, because the grief and the hurt and the guilt that you would have if that person followed through with it,
right,
would be very, very hard to manage.
We're going to definitely deal with that next week, suicide. Because it's really rampant right now. I don't know if people understand, especially with young people. Like, we're having so many incidents with young people committing suicide and unfortunately doing it on social media as well. I had a pen. I have no idea where it went. And so another number to copy down is Georgia Crisis Line. And it's for mental health crisis or substance abuse crisis. If you're having any type of crisis in your life, and you're in the state of Georgia, and I believe every state has a crisis line, just so you're aware. And there is no charge for the line to talk to someone or for them to come out and service you. It's 877-975-4286. 877-975-4286. I should know that by heart. I used to work there, right? But go ahead.
And I did bring you a gift, because as we were talking about the shirts and the column that God works with therapists too. So I did bring you a gift.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome. See, I got my shirt. So I'm not ready for you to go. You're leaving me already?
I am not leaving you, but I did want to go ahead and give you.
I'm so excited. Because I was actually going to ask you for a shirt because, we both have this event this weekend. And I was like, I'm going to wear my shirt to this event because it's a mental health symposium on mental health in the church, bridging the gap between mental health and the church. And so I was like, when you said that, I was like, that'll be perfect for this weekend. So I'm going to try to get Chelsea on this week so she can talk about her symposium as well. And we'll both be there vending tables. So
yes, I will be there with my shirts and bracelets and business cards.
And please forgive me. I have to find the information. I'll put it out before the end of the night. The end of the morning. and put the information out for people if they want to support, because it's going to be a great event. It's such a needed conversation, and I know it's something that she does a lot with. I don't know if you know her, but she does this like chit-chat coffee type thing where she'll have this conversation all the time. That's where I met her. And so the need for us to address mental health in the church is so important. It's just like we have people suffering, preachers dying, killing themselves, and so that's a problem when we feel like the pastor feels like, and I can only imagine as a pastor or a pastor's wife, the responsibility and the level of, stress they have on their lives to carry everybody else's, the whole entire flock, burdens on them and deal with their stuff. So when a pastor decides, I can't take it anymore, my faith is wavered and I'm going to kill myself, then that's serious. And we have that more and more. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, and I was just going to say, the thing about that is, it's because depending on which denomination, as far as that depends on their approach to mental health.
That's true.
So to be a pastor and not believe in therapy or getting any mental health assistance, and you are wavering in your faith, or you're going through challenges and you can't reach out to anyone because you're the head of the church.
That's crazy, right?
And you're preaching, okay, we don't go to therapy. We pray to God, and God's going to heal us and things of that nature. So not wanting to be a hypocrite and seek the help that is needed. So unfortunately, some of them have decided to do that, but it's really heartbreaking because the help is out here. There's help, free help. There's help that costs money. There's help that's sliding scales. There's someone out here that can help you. And the thing about therapy, and I always try to tell people, you have to find someone, as far as a therapist, that you connect with. There are some people that have a bad experience.
That's a good one.
And they will go to therapy one time, and I was like, I didn't like it, so I'm not going back. Or they'll try medication. I tried that medication, but I didn't like it, so I just stopped taking it.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way. It's like you have to find the therapist that you connect with.
Right.
That therapist just may not have been the one for you. And so if you're a spiritual person and you want someone that's either a Christian counselor or that's someone that will incorporate spirituality, then you just discuss that when you call and make an appointment, or if you, at your first session, like, my spirituality is extremely important to me,
right,
and I want to incorporate this, and that's okay, and it will be incorporated into your treatment plan. But understanding that you just have to persevere and be persistent. Like, just like you have a journey in your faith and your testimony, you have a journey in life in general. So everything that you're experiencing is going to make you a better person. It's going to give you some tools and viewpoints and perspectives that can help the next person. So even with you struggling with depression, I'm sure there's plenty of other therapists that felt like I couldn't go to therapy because I didn't want people to think differently of me because I'm in the field or because I didn't like medication. And then they hear you like, hey, she did it.
Yeah.
You know, and I have clients that are doctors, med students, attorneys,
right?
And it's like, these are successful people that are diagnosed with anxiety, depression, bipolar,
schizophrenia,
and they're able to function.
Right.
So it's not as if you have this diagnosis, your life is over. It's like, no, you have to go through a process. You have to go through, honestly, I say you have to go through the grieving process.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, you have this idea of what your life should have been, what it was going to be like, and then when you get the diagnosis, it's like, wait a minute, this was not part of the plan. Right. What do you mean I have anxiety?
Right. As with any illness, and I think if we could learn to treat mental illness like we treat cancer, you know, if we can learn to embrace our family members or our loved ones the same way, then I think we would have better outcomes. You know what I'm saying? And not that I was really, I don't know. Again, my whole thing was medication. And I thank God for, you know, friends who call you out on your stuff, you know what I'm saying, who check you when you know. But, you know, and even at the time, I wasn't accepting of it. I was mad at them, you know. But, right. But you know, when you go and you sit and you be quiet for a minute, you know that they're, you know what I'm saying, you know they're telling you the truth. But at the same time, like I said also, in working with my clients, I knew I had to do something different anyway, because it had gotten to the point where you can't continue doing this. It's not going to work any longer. Either you're not going to be able to do this job, or you're going to have to go and address what needs to be addressed. And so I had to do that. But I think another thing is, I think if we could approach it like we do a lot of other things, like we do a job, or like we do, you know, school, you know what I'm saying? when things get hard, we don't necessarily quit work, do we?
Right.
You know, or if it doesn't fit our needs, we adjust, we work, we do what we need to do to adjust and find out what works for us. And that's the same thing you have to do for therapy. You have to research, you have to find a therapist, like you said, that connect with. Every therapist is not going to work. I hear so many horror stories, unfortunately, about therapists messing people up. And I'm really sad about that because that really bothers me. It'd be like, my therapist told me this, or my therapist, and I'm like, oh my God, where are these people going to school? Where they get their license from? Because that's so important that I'm, ethical, and I do what I'm supposed to do for my clients, and I do no harm. And so I think that, again, going to the wrong therapist can really mess a lot of people up.
And that's why in my first session, like the first session is generally, of course, you go through your informed consent and all those things, but I need you to see if you like me or not. Like, it's okay if you don't. If we don't connect, then please, I will not take it I will not take it personally. Then, you go to another therapist. And, this is kind of like an interview stage. Like, these are my skills. These are my techniques.
Yeah.
Do you
this
connect
is my
with me?
therapeutic approach.
And, if you feel like I'm someone that you can work with, then please schedule another appointment. If not, then I encourage you to go find someone that you can. Because the bottom line is, you need to get the help that you need.
Right.
So I'm here to make sure that you get the help that you need, whether it's with me, whether I have to refer you to another therapist. Because
I
some
refer
people want
all
a male
the time. I refer
know.
all the time. I have no problem referring.
Exactly.
If I feel like it's something, like, what, I know somebody who has a better skill set in that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me send you over there because I know that they can help you with that better than I can. I don't want to waste your time, waste your money, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to taint people. Mm-hmm. Because it's already such a stigma with this, in this area. I don't even want to call it in this area. So people, another thing. I'm gonna ask you a question real quick because people say all the time, "What's the difference between a therapist and a counselor?"
Well, generally they're used interchangeably.
They are.
So, when I say therapist or psychotherapist or counselor, I use them interchangeably.
Okay.
And that's what, use the therapist to use talk therapy. I have different, certifications.
Right.
Because I have a certification in marriage and family therapy, addiction counseling, and anger management. But, some people, I use them interchangeably, but some people have clear.
And I think that's another problem. People don't understand what is what. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand the difference between a social worker, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a life coach. And I say that all the time. And people be like, well, maybe you need to do something on that because people don't, they lump us all together as one, and we're not. Everybody has different roles that they play in your life depending on what you're dealing with. And so a social worker is not a counselor. They can't do counseling. But their roles usually, they can't do counseling. And now they do more counseling, I think, than ever. Actually,
but social workers generally case management.
Case management,
so
resources.
Yes. But they do have clinical social workers that can do counseling. But then I have a lot of times where, people come, I saw my psychiatrist, and I saw for 15 minutes.
Right.
They didn't even talk to me.
Right.
And, they're upset. I'm like, well, your psychiatrist is for medication management. So your appointments are generally going to be about 15 minutes to check in about your medication. So when you have therapy, your therapist is for therapy to talk things out, and your psychiatrist is to get you the medication. And then, so it's very confusing for some people, but generally you can just clarify it in session.
I mean, and I think that's another reason they keep people from going too, because they say, well, I went to a psychiatrist or I went to a psychologist, and I didn't get this, or I got that, or I did this, and so it's a lot of times people are confused about what are the different terms for everything. So it's important that you also know that. You know who you're going to see and why you're going to see them, because that makes a difference as well. It's 7:02 a.m. already. We're in the second hour, Mental Health Awareness Series. And so, we're going to keep talking to Latricia. I think I have another calling in a few minutes. Dr. Benjamin will be calling here shortly, who is an educator and a pastor. So she's going to help us talk a little bit about too, how she combines, and how she works with her clients and her peers on mental health as well. But one thing I was going to say, and again, brain freeze, so I'll come back. If you want to call in, you have any questions, please do. Depression and anxiety is what we're supposed to be talking about. We're talking about mental health. But it's 478-787-0993, 478-787-0993. And then, yes, it's Monday, Motivational Mondays. I'm dragging a little bit, so y'all call me and give me some energy. How about that? And we're right here with our guest, Latricia Pitts, again, licensed professional counselor, a friend, a cohort. We graduated with our masters together. So we have been, so she's out here doing this every day. I'm not doing it every day like she is. She does this every day. She sees clients. She's in the office. She's dealing with this every day. So it's good to have other perspectives on what you see every day, because I don't do this every day. So when you're out of touch, you kind of, miss some things. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to talk about mental health, because it's affecting the world at this point. It really is. Uh-oh. Let's see if this is our caller. Good morning.
Doing this every day. I'm not doing it.
Good morning.
She does this every day.
Hi, who am I speaking with?
Hi, you're speaking to Minister Blackman.
Minister Blackman, how are you?
I'm blessed this morning and highly favored and intrigued about your conversation this morning.
Awesome. Thank you. You had a comment or a question?
I would just like to commend my daughter, Latricia Pitts, on bridging the gap between therapy and the church. That is a blessing.
Yes. I think you embarrassed her, Mommy.
Thanks, Mom.
I love you, my daughter. I'm so proud of you. I'm trying to keep it professional.
Thank you, Mom. We appreciate you, and you are so correct. Yes, we have to bridge the gap. So let me ask you, Mom, since you're a minister, how do you see mental health in the church? Are you in the church? Are you a pastor? Are you with your overseer, or how are you functioning in the church? Ma'am?
I'm actually a minister in training. And the church that I go to is Peace Christian Center Church under the tutelage of Pastor Jackie W. Russell.
Awesome.
And the majority of our church members are into counseling and therapy.
Good.
And they have always integrated the therapy into the church in reference to cross-referencing the Bible with the therapy. Because, like my daughter said, God wants us to be healthy and whole.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Okay, great. So you all are practicing what you preach over there.
Amen.
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 Thank you so much for calling. You have a blessed day.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you for doing all that you do, Miss Green.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a blessed day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Oh, so you have a mommy that's a minister too. So I'm a PK kid, so
Yes.
I get it, and usually she's listening or calling in. Also, she ain't calling this morning, but yeah.
And my mom is a PK too.
Oh, awesome.
Like
Okay,
that.
see. So it just runs in the bloodline, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. Okay, and the fact that they are, over there at her ministry teaching and doing counseling. And it's so important, again, the leader sets the tone for the flock, and so it's important that if the teacher is not giving them the teaching to go out and do the work, then that's where it comes in. And I say all the time, I have a concern when pastors don't address things like domestic violence or abuse or mental health, because it speaks a lot to the congregation.
Right.
And so we have to do our due diligence and get out more and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. I know a lot of people turn us away, because I've had a lot of people, advocates. I'm advocates in many areas, and so the churches just don't embrace it a lot. They don't want to talk about it.
Right, and that's why you just have to start the dialogue, and that's what's important. And once you get people in therapy and they're feeling better, and then they can go and they can testify to other people like, hey, this is what I was going through.
This worked for me.
And I went to therapy and it brought me closer to God. And that's what I really want people to get, is like, it actually can improve your faith and bring you closer, because then at that point in therapy, you can't be a hypocrite in therapy. You're going to be forced to address those things. So if you say you're a Christian, you have these beliefs,
right?
At least for me in session, I'm going to call you out on it. So if this is what you say you believe in, and this is not what you're practicing, and this is what your life looks like, okay, well, what do you think needs to change in order for you to get to the place that you want to be at? And so if you want to be at this place of peace, joy, and happiness, but you're not applying the therapeutic principles, you're not applying your spiritual principles, then you need to reevaluate what's going on.
What you really
life.
believe. What you really believe. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I like that you say you called them out on it. I don't know, I would think as most preachers or therapists, that we would call them out. I don't know if everybody does, though. Good morning. You're on Power Up Mornings with Professor Green. How can I help you? I mean, did you have a question or comment? I done went to work mode. You have a question or comment this morning? Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Green. This is Dr. Benjamin. I'm
Hey, Dr. Benjamin. How are you?
Good. How are you?
That's all right. Look, I brought you on in without introducing you, but thank you, Dr. Roma Benjamin, for joining us this morning. You come in this morning, we were talking about mental health in the church, and we're talking about depression and anxiety. So I think you're going to be a awesome bonus to the conversation this morning. So everyone, this is the second guest of the hour, Dr. Roma Benjamin, and she's calling us from, is it Philadelphia?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yes. Okay. Awesome. And she is an educator and a minister herself, and she works a lot with the young people. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about, like I said, mental health, bridging the gap between ministry and the church, and how we can bridge that gap, how we can fix that, because a lot of times we have such a stigma around therapy. And I noticed in your bio, you said that's that's the things that we should be doing. We should be bringing people to Christ through counseling and training and teaching and loving. So I'm going to throw you right on in there. How do you feel about that? About the therapy?
When Jesus speaks about being made whole, he's dealing with therapy. Because we want things to happen in a mystical, magical way, and it just doesn't happen like that. You have to walk through a process. You have to be able to, admit what's going on and then deal with it. And when you're talking about mental illness, and I deal specifically in literacy, getting rid of illiteracy, because the church too is illiterate in areas, especially dealing with spiritual things. I believe mental illness is running rapid,
yes,
especially in the schools. It's really running rapid because we excuse the behavior of someone, sometimes just by saying they're mentally ill. And a lot of times they're really illiterate to what's going on around them and don't know how to address it.
Good stuff. Yes. So you said the church is illiterate. Is that what you said? I don't want to misquote you. Yes.
Yeah, to a certain extent, absolutely. Because like I said, when we're dealing with mental illness in the church, we don't know what the scripture is really saying. Jesus is saying things like, your faith has made thee whole, go in peace. Wholeness is just not magically, I'm healed. There's therapy, there's things that you have to do, that you have to walk through. There are processes that you have to understand that has to take place. I'm a proponent for therapy. That's why I talk a lot about literacy, because if we don't read it correctly, we're operating with wrong information.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lot of time what's the problem is that we have the information, but we don't know how to apply it. It's not applicable. And so a lot of times, therefore, we don't use it at all. So I hear a lot of people say it's just laziness or people don't want to change. I don't believe that. I honestly believe that people want more and want better. It's just they don't know how to use what's in front of them a lot of times. And a lot of that goes to illiteracy in all definitions of the word, I would say. We have with us Dr. Benjamin, Latricia Pitts. She's a licensed professional counselor as well, and so she may jump in a little bit. Did you have something to say on that?
I was going to say as well, as far as just people not wanting to change, but also understanding if you have a diagnosis and have depression, that's one of the symptoms of depression.
Yeah.
You're fatigued, you're tired, you can't concentrate, you can't make decisions. So it may not necessarily even be that they're lazy or don't have the information. Physically and mentally, they're just tired because
That's
they're
true.
suffering from the symptoms of depression. So they can't even make the decisions that they need to make to go get help.
Sound decision to change their life. That's right. And so you feel hopeless. You feel helpless.
You can't concentrate. You
Right.
can't make decisions. And if you can't focus, how are you going to make those important decisions in your life?
So let me ask you a question. So in dealing with young people, I know you do a lot with the literacy with the young people, and that's very important to you. You have a school, is that correct, Dr. Benjamin?
It's actually not a school. Excuse me. I do literacy centers where I focus on young people. I mean, I've been asked to do it with adults, but I'm just not there yet because the real issue is the majority of the problem starts at the early age and early in school age, even prior to that. But I deal specifically with non-readers or struggling readers, children that, just get pushed through the system. And it seems like, everybody's just trying to get them out of the school instead of,
Exactly.
get them.
Yes.
Let's just get them out of here. You could go 13 years. That's kindergarten through 12th grade, graduate with a diploma and still be illiterate.
Absolutely.
So that's what my focus is. That's why I left the education system, because the Lord said to leave it in order to really deal with it. Because within the system, you have to deal with all the bureaucracy and
yes.
propaganda and all the lies and all the, the color, the stuff that's color, you color over it.
Right.
And then it's like I specifically deal with this on a smaller. I create smaller environments to deal with this.
Yeah. Good. I love it. I don't know if you've seen this show called either of you, Last Chance You. It's on Netflix. I watched it for the first time the other day. My husband just happened to put it on. And when I tell you, it affected me in such a way because, like you said, okay, so the show is about athletes who got in trouble at Division I or Division, 2 type schools and were kicked out. And so in order for them, this is their last chance at going back or making it. And so they go to this school in Mississippi where they're, it's a community college, and they have to make the grade and make the cut but their whole focus, of course, is to be an athlete and get back to the major teams, But when I tell you the level of illiteracy, the level of mental health issues that I saw in these young people, and mostly African American, was just astounding, and nobody's addressing that. The people are working with them on their grades. They're working with them, to make sure they maintain their GPA so they can stay eligible and that type of thing. Make sure they stay drug-free, that type of thing. Stay out of trouble. But nobody's addressing the mental health issues, the learning disabilities. It's almost as if though they just were like, I don't know if they don't have the resources. I don't want to assume, but I don't know if they don't have the resources. But I would think that would be the priority rather than throwing a ball. And for me, that's a real issue for me. And I'm like, I'm going to have to write an article or something on it. Go ahead, Latricia, because you busting over here to say something. Go ahead.
I have not seen the show.
I was ready to jump in too.
I have not seen the show. However, when you speak on it, several things that came to mind, especially when it comes to academics and having students with mental health diagnoses, is because the stigma attached to it. A lot of parents will allow their child to proceed all the way through school because they don't want a label attached to them that they have any type of mental issue. They'd rather be bad and suspended, labeled as that, than for them to have a diagnosis. So then they'll go through school all this time and they don't get the additional services that they need to accommodate their diagnosis that can help them be successful and thrive. And oftentimes, if they don't have those diagnoses by 18, when they graduate, they don't qualify for those services in college. Mm-hmm. So then they're in college independently, struggling, trying to manage, and their only outlet and coping skill is probably whatever that sport is. Mm-hmm. So that sport is helpful to a certain extent, but it doesn't fix the fact that they have the mental health diagnosis. And because, how do I say this politically correct?
Just say it, girl. We good on here.
Colleges are, when it comes to athletics,
they're
interested in performance. If
money,
you can go out
finances,
there
and performance.
And throw the ball, definitely. Or hit the baseball, whatever it is. That's what their focus is, because that's what's going to bring them income. So we're not going to be proactive and manage the other issues as far as mentally. We're going to focus on performance. So if you can keep it together and just stay out of trouble, even if you're struggling and it's difficult for you, as long as you can perform on that field,
work as a team,
then we're okay.
Wow.
And they only interact when it's something that is generally a public
detrimental
issue.
to them.
Right.
Yes, detrimental to the school's reputation. Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. What you gonna say, Dr. Benjamin?
Well, I've not seen the movie either, but I've lived it. I've lived in the environment in education where I've gone toe to toe with coaches where it was okay for the students, especially the male students, for them. I've had a coach look me in my face and tell me, just let them run up and down the court. They just want to catch the ball. In the meantime, most of them had like a 1.7 GPA.
Exactly.
And so I'm standing in front of him and 7 or 8 other coaches that they must have thought I was crazy because I didn't care at that moment. What I cared about was the fact that you are manipulating the system. Yes. You are beating our children down, because if they win a championship, the pennant is in the name of the school and the accolades go to the coach. And you say a championship, but you don't have any champions. And so then those same young men are trying to get in professional sports, which they cannot, because it's really strange. They don't understand. The system says that you have to at least be able to read and follow the instructions of any type of plays. So athleticism is not even taking them there anymore. What's sad to say, ladies, is only 6 to 7% of our African American males, they're so much lower than everyone else, but they don't get into being doctors and lawyers where you have to be able to think and you're not classified a lot of times as mentally ill. They get into the sports. They allow their deficiencies to make money for them.
For the family.
Just like the young lady was just saying, it makes money for them because you could care less that they have problems and issues. You know they could care less because in the NFL alone, you have so many of them that are abusers. They abuse their wives, and you can do that and still make millions of dollars. But when you're intelligent and you stand for something that's right, you get ostracized.
Definitely.
You get put down. So we're really dealing with. You said you're going to write an article on it, and I don't blame you. I want to write this article with you because it's really a travesty. It is a shame, even amongst African Americans, that we let this go. Blacks should be embarrassed, stand up and say, totally embarrassed because we let it go. I can't, what's the young lady's name on the line with us?
Latricia Pitts.
Yeah, she said that, a lot of times they won't even accept the diagnosis. In the school system, you're labeled, and they know once you label them. These parents also know you get other types of support.
Yes.
It's a game.
It is.
You know,
It is.
and who suffers at it? The child does.
We do. The
Yes.
community, the entire community.
And society suffers too. You're right. You're right.
As a
Society
mother
suffers.
of a black African American son, I'm black son. That's what I'm saying. As a mother, that's what my heart went out to. You understand what I'm saying? Because I was just that parent that refused. You will not be a child who cannot read. You will not be
Exactly.
a child. You know. But I do understand. I don't want to sound like I don't understand the struggle. I understand the struggle, and I know for a lot of these young boys, because they even said it on there. You know, I have to do this for my family. I'm the only one who can get us out of this situation. And to put that type of pressure on your child is just, you know what I'm saying? I'm really emotional about that thing because this season 1 or 2, I only watched like 2 episodes, and it just, I was like, I got to write something on this. I was telling my husband, he was like, calm down. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is every day. This is what is happening to our young black men, and we want to know why we can't see the change or why we don't have people stepping up. Because if you are telling me that the young boy is on the team, he cannot even understand the plays, y'all. He cannot even follow the team because he can't understand the plays. And you are not doing something about that. You're just fussing at him or cursing him out or whatever, and it's not an issue. That's an issue for me. It's a real issue.
It's a major issue, Dr. Kiva. And, you know, what's really sad about this is our incarcerated rate, prisons and jails, they're full of people of color.
Yes.
They have mental health issues, drug addiction. Their levels of educational attainment is extremely low. We have a history of unemployment, and we are underemployed. But why? We got to go back because we didn't handle it at the early ages.
Got to start.
These things, we're living in the 21st century.
Yes.
You know, these things are detected at an early age. You know when you know what you're dealing with. Exactly. You know what you're dealing with. You know how you have to grow these kids. Because by the time you're speaking of when they get in colleges and they're saying, well, I'm the only one that can get us out of this. Well, you're right. Why should that pressure be on one person? You know, if we're going to do this, let's do it as a team of people. There's nothing else. You do it for yourself. At this point, you got to do it for yourself, or either it will be, as they say, the pipeline from the school to the prison. And in the prison is the majority of our people. And we have to go back and deal with this from the onset and not just prescribe, a fiction. Yes, we got to go back and deal with this from the onset. And we have to be unapologetic about this. And really, like you said, that story, I'm going to research it and see, you know, because right now it's too important for our children, our young adults to fail. It is too important to allow them to fail with all the help we have now.
We're already last. We're 20 years behind on everything, on technology. In this place that we're in. And so again, and I'm gonna let you talk to Latricia because I know you want to say something. But another thing that made me really upset was they were talking about this other guy's potential who clearly cannot read. I'm saying, why y'all don't understand this man can't read? But number two, I'm saying, so you're gonna give him $1 million contract in a few years. And what's gonna happen? You understand what I'm saying? Because to me, that is what they do. And not to just throw this name out there, Floyd Mayweather, that's a prime example for me of the disservice that we do to our young people. With a 3rd grade education, you can go and make $30 million in 30 minutes and flaunt it and brag about it. And I'm saying in 10 years, you may not even have the brain capacity of a 5-year-old because you keep getting knocked upside the head. And somebody has to take care of you in that money, and you don't even have the sense to know where. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so many factors into it. It bothers me. I don't mean to go there.
But he becomes the billboard. He becomes the billboard for our children, and they're not getting what he got.
Exactly.
And I know one of the things
they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it.
That stood out when you were talking about just being a mom. Of course, I have sons.
Right.
And I can recall when my oldest son was in 1st grade, and his teacher she came to me and she was like, I want to talk to you about your son. And I'm like, okay, fine. She was like, well, I want to talk to you about ADHD. I don't know, the look on my face must have been like really serious, because she was like, wait, I'm not saying he needs medication. I'm not saying he needs medication. But I want to talk to you about it. Not knowing that I was in the field.
Right.
And so I have a discussion with her and, find out my son is reading the books out loud, reading past the class or whatever. And so it wasn't that he had ADHD, he was academically gifted.
Right.
So it's really, really important. I think an important part is missing, that we have to advocate for our children. And there are a lot of young parents that don't
know
that
how
and
to
don't
do
have
that
connection.
Right.
Because had I not advocated for my son, they would have just
Given
labeled him
Mm-hmm.
ADHD and given him attempted to give him medication. And the fact is, he just needed harder work. So once she gave him second grade work, he was completely fine. But you have to be involved in the schools. You have to be educated as a parent to advocate properly for your child. So when you think about the community, when you're struggling as single parents to raise kids, you don't have time to be as involved in the school. You have to work 2-3 jobs. So whatever the teachers say, a lot of parents take it as that's what the teacher said, so I'm just going to go with it. Or if the teacher passes them, he must be okay because they passed him. Or I'm just trying to get him out the house and get this one raised. Right. Because I'm just tired and I'm ready to move on to the next step. So it doesn't just boil down to the school system and just the children. The parents need to be educated and supported.
Absolutely.
But they're so exhausted, especially, single households. A lot of times don't have the father. That's why that weight is on that child. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I hear, oh, he's the man of the house.
Right.
No, he is not the man of the house. He is a boy. He is a child.
Right. I was just going to say, we make him the husband.
Right.
Figure.
And there's no man of the house. He is a child, and he needs to stay in a child's place and not have that pressure put on him. Well, so I think we just need to support the parents. Yeah. We need to support each other as a community.
We do.
Because if we can support each other as a community, the resources that the children need will come from us. If you have a male figure that's in the community that can mentor, you have a therapist that's in the community that identifies these behavioral issues and these diagnoses and like, hey, I saw your son and I think this is what's going to come into the office and talk to me. Well, I don't have no money for that. I don't have time for that. Well, you know what? You can get free services through this right here. Mm-hmm. Or I do a lot of pro bono stuff. I probably do way more than I should because I'm like, I just want to help our community be healthy and whole. And we can't expect these children to be raised in this chaos and this foolishness and then to thrive as adults. That's why we do have the athletes and the adults that's abusive and all they care about is money. Money isn't everything. Yes, money is important. It's an important resource. You need to succeed. But you still need to have other aspects of life that are important. And that's what these people are focused on. They're focused on the money. They don't care about your spirituality. They don't care about your family life. They don't care about you as an individual. All they want to know is how much money you're going to bring into this organization. I don't care if you can read. I don't care if you smack your wife. How much money you going to bring? Mm-hmm. Only time I care if you smack your wife is when it starts publicly affecting
our name.
But what you do in private, because I'm sure before it comes out publicly.
Absolutely.
These coaches and players know the dynamics of that person. It just hasn't been exposed yet. So being able to take that proactive approach from childhood to adulthood and just reach out and help one another. And I don't think we have that. We need the education and the support.
Well, I know you probably see that a lot, Dr. Benjamin, dealing with, like you say, the younger kids, the need for parents to get the resources they need, to get the help they need, to get the training they need. And I know you probably see a lot of single parents struggling. So what do you have to say to that?
Well, I was listening to, because I have a son too, of course. I'm African American, and I literally adopted him at age 7, and he's 29, doing extremely well. I'm an educator, so of course I wasn't going to let the system, even though they said he was 2 years behind socially and a year and a half behind academically, and they wanted him medicated. And I said, absolutely not. Prayer and his tail getting whipped is my direction. Other than that, we're not doing. Because I said, if you put him on drugs, I grew up in a drug infested environment, and not a bad living environment, but the young people doing drugs. And I said, I do know that when you're trying to get people when you put them on drugs, you got to use drugs to get them off drugs.
Exactly.
I said, so you're really just doping them up, and you're not going to dope up my child.
Right.
But yes, I see that all the time. And what we, as Black America, and I was appreciating what I think Letitia was saying, as Black America, we have to save us. We cannot any longer accept what a teacher just says. You know, I've seen it all the time. You know, your child can't do this. Look, we're culturally different. So we have to deal with our culture, the way we are raised, the way we're taught. But we got to go to the root of this problem. We have to go back to the beginning, because this is really a dire crisis. It's an epidemic.
It is.
If we don't go back to the root of the fact that we get kids early, preschool, kindergarten, coming out of these single-family homes. I have a single-family home, but I was determined that I was not going to be called single-family based on what the world says a single-family is. Mm-hmm. You could be a single-family. Many people in the Bible didn't have husbands and wives, and they had. So we make excuses. I'm not making any excuses. We have to go back to the beginning. That's why, ladies, I pulled out and started opening literacy centers, not just in my church. I spoke to my church. You know, I told them, I said, listen, I will not pastor an illiterate church, because if you don't understand what you're reading, if you don't understand the sounds letters make, and then how to because there are steps in this. You know, you have to be able to recall it, then apply it, then analyze it, synthesize it, evaluate. There are steps in it, and it's not difficult. We just can't send them to school, like the young lady was saying. Her son, I had a young man too in my church. He was suspended every week, every day, and every time he went back, he got suspended. Wow. I tested him, ladies, and his reading was off the chain. He was in the 5th grade reading on a 7th grade comprehension level.
Wow.
And I said, shit, y'all don't know how to deal with him, so you're calling him emotionally disturbed.
Yes.
Disturbed. Your classroom your teachers are emotionally disturbed. But you should be able, you wasn't.
That's right.
He needed more than you just sitting there talking about this foolishness, and you on your phone in the back. And this is where we have to really fight.
We do.
Got to get our young people to understand. Well, stop having the babies. That's number one. But just in case you have them, get the help that you need.
That's a whole other show.
Get the help that you need. Get out the nail salon.
Absolutely.
Take them off the weave and get the programs that your child needs. And I'm telling you, mostly foundationally speaking, it's like that young man in that show. He needs to learn how to read, because when he reads that contract and say that if you don't come to practice, you lose it $3.5 million. If he doesn't read that and understand it, he's losing more money than he's making, and everybody else is making billions, and he's making millions. You know, there's a book, I forgot the author, it's in my other room. It's called $40 Million Slave.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's still a form of slavery.
It is.
Where we take our young men, especially, put them on the trading block and say, yeah, this one is worth that one. When most of them have to go straight into sports because they can't pass the SATs. Okay. See, they don't want to talk about that.
Right.
They don't want to talk about that. Get in college. On the college level, they can't read. So they create all these bogus courses for them to be in just to magnify their sport. Crazy. It's ridiculous. And we need to call it what it is.
It is. That's true. I agree. Go ahead, Latricia. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and one of the things that stood out when you mentioned the medication, I also wanted to be mindful that, you know, there are some kids that actually do need medication. And when they don't get it, they tend to self-medicate. So when you start seeing these substance abuse issues, it's because they have anxiety.
That's right.
They
the
have
bipolar.
So they will smoke marijuana. Or they'll do some type of drug or drinking because that helps them focus.
Mellow
or that
out.
helps them calm down. Not understanding that if you took the appropriate medication, you could get that balanced baseline so that you can function effectively, but they don't want to do that because the stigma that comes with it or the label, so they'll just do drugs. So you're like wondering why they're failing drug tests. Like you get all this stuff that you're risking your whole career because you want to smoke. Yes. But it's like, if I don't smoke, I cannot focus. So
well, not only that, but like when I travel and I speak, I used to speak a lot on bullying. Mm-hmm. And I tell teachers and educators, okay, we live in a stimulated world. You expect a child to sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day, don't move, don't talk. Then you make them have quiet, no talk lunch, and no recess. How is that possible? You're at your desk with your phone, your Coke, your coffee. You get up and walk out the room 10 times a day. How do you expect a child who is stimulated by everything around them? We have telephones all day. We have TV. We have noise on. You don't know what environment they come from. If children not getting proper rest, they don't sleep on proper bedding. You understand? They don't get enough water. They don't eat proper food. They don't get proper sleep. All these things factor into that child's behavior. So you cannot expect a child to sit in a seat for 6 to 8 hours a day and not move and not talk. That's just impossible, and it should not. You shouldn't even expect it.
Right.
Because I told you I'm an educator, so I was a teacher. Highest paid administrator, making 6 figures. And in my classroom, you can move, you can get up, you can talk, you can look out the window. I say, hey, y'all got about 2 minutes to go just do anything because I can't sit still myself, but I'm grown.
That's what I say.
I'm still
right.
So we put a European system that's about 400 something years old, and we shove it down our children's throat.
Yes.
And just like the teacher's saying, and then we want to medicate them to swallow this.
Medicate to death.
We cannot. We are, and black folk, we have to stop accepting. Everything is not free in life. So that's why I'm telling you, I create centers, and I help parents. They say, I don't make a lot of money. I said, listen, do whatever it takes to get your child what they need to be able to navigate in this 21st century. Because the foreign children, they're beating us by a landslide.
Yes.
So the suburbs are wiping us off. Even though illiteracy is worldwide and America is at the bottom of the totem pole, we still as people can bring this together and influence one another. Stop being crabs in the barrel trying to pull one down when one gets up. How about, look, let me connect. If Letitia's dealing with mental illness, how do I connect with her with the mental illness issue that we're dealing with, that I'm dealing with, the illiteracy, bringing literacy back to the forefront? How do we connect these things together so that our people, they can survive? Because our people are not surviving in this. You're right. Our children are not so dead. We drink, we get up and say what we want. We go use our cell phone, and then we put out, hey, you can't move, raise your hand, don't stand up, don't look out the window. It's all kinds of stipulations that's put on our children. And the bottom line is, you haven't really taught them what is really significant in life. And they're coming in and they're going out. They're getting them out real quick. And then once again, you have to deal with their mental issues. And if we get to the root of it, the majority of our kids can't read. The majority of our adults, 32 million people in America cannot read. Wow. Detroit alone, they have the largest population of illiterate adults. Imagine that. And Detroit is one of the richest cities in the country, and America is one of the richest countries in the world. And we got that. Come on, we got to go back and fight. And it's got to be an unfair fight. We have to be revolutionary.
That stands out what you said about people saying they can't afford it. And my thing is, I always say, invest in the help that you need. Because the reality is you can't afford not to. Because if you don't invest in the help that you need, it's going to cost you way more money in the
later
end
down the road
than it would if you would go ahead and address that issue in the beginning. It's just like if you have an issue with your car, you can hear it and you keep going, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So something that could have cost $50 is going to cost you $2,000-$3,000 to fix.
Well, I tell parents, you can either pay now or you can pay later, but you're going to pay. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Because when the check and light comes on, it simply means go get the engine checked. It does not mean wait until the engine goes out.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people do. I know you mentioned before people get their hair done and get their nails done and things of that nature, but you have to put the money towards what's most important. And if you don't have the resources, then, as a spiritual person, you pray to God, like, Lord, help me find the resources that I need to help my child? Reach out to the pastor, reach out to the school, because there's school social workers and they can direct you to resources. You know, the church has resources. And if you call, like I said, a lot of therapists will do pro bono work, definitely. Sliding scale fees. They have scholarships for different things. So it's like you have to be very proactive and persistent in getting the resources and the help that you need for yourself or you need for your child. Not saying, oh, I don't have no money, so, you know, it is what it is. No, it's not is what it is. You know, get out there and figure it out. You hustle on any other aspect, hustle to get the things you need that's going to bring value and positive progress to you and your family. And
well, like I said, I think that, not making excuses, but I do believe a lot of times we don't know what we're looking at. Again, we go off what other people tell us because we haven't done our due diligence or our research. Again, we don't know what mental illness look like because for so long we denied that it was mental illness. You understand what I'm saying? We hid in shame and lied about that thing. And so now when we look at it, like I said, it's always John been acting like that since he was 2. That's just what John do. John just need his butt whooped, right? And so, and it's not always, sometimes that's the case, but that's not always the case. And I think that, like you said, having these type of dialogues, getting out in the community is so needed. I always say we have to go back to basics. We just have to. We have to go back to the beginning in order to change because I feel like we've already lost 2 generations already, and we're working on the 3rd one because we have let so much slide and slip through the cracks that now, you know, it's catch up. It's not catch up. I mean, we running at full speed now trying to catch up. So go ahead.
And one of my things is that I always have all these little catchphrases. But if what you're doing right now isn't working, try something different. So if you've been whooping John for 15 years and he's still doing the same thing, you know, if you've been praying for all these years and nothing has changed, you need to do something differently. Not to say that you need to give up on prayer, definitely not. But you need to incorporate something else with the prayer. Right. And if you've been whooping him and it's not effective, you need to find something that works and that's effective. So keep switching up and keep doing something different until you figure out what works for you and your family. And
your child.
Instead of
and you know your child. I tell parents all the time, you know your children. Mm-hmm. You really know your children. Now, you may not want to, you may be in denial, you may not want to deal with it, but you know your children. Mm-hmm. You know, let's just be honest about it. Go ahead, Dr. Benjamin.
And she's right. Prayer, when you say you've been praying, and listen, prayer is an action word. Absolutely. This is what I mean by we need to be literate. It is an action word. So once I say the prayer, I've got to put action to what I'm praying about. So I'm praying about, Lord, how do I affect change, in the school system? Get out of it. Open literacy systems. Go address this problem.
Right.
It's not about money. We always say, as Black people, we don't have the resources. Yes, you do. You are the resource. Mm-hmm. And then once out of the resource that you are, then God gives you resources. Because if we don't, like you said, I've been saying this, you've got to go back to where the most damage takes place. Mm-hmm. It takes in the early years of our children's lives, especially our young boys. It takes place early on. And so we have, as parents, we have Black parents and we have boys. And so we address the issue and we continue to address the issue. I have a grandson and he's only 5 months old tomorrow. He'll be 5 months old. And I already have him. I do words with him. I have him in a program. Yes, I do. And when they doing certain words, I say it to him, and he's cheering, and I'm showing him different. Like, I'm not going to let the system, because we got to change the system.
That's right.
The systems it's systemic. It's broken.
It is.
And if we education a failing system, then how are we going to go in and stop our kids from failing in the failing system? That's why I had to come out in order to do what I do, to address this from the onset. And I'm not apologizing for it. I challenge my parents all the time when they come up to me, I don't have money. I said, well, then get off Facebook waving that bottle of champagne that you was out celebrating. That bottle of champagne could have paid for the $90 to come to my center that your child can't read. You putting them in cheerleading? How dare you? That's embarrassing. They're in the 2nd grade, reading on the kindergarten level, and you're concerned about the only you're doing is cheering them into the literacy center so that they can, when they get to the 3rd grade, you got to take a standardized test, and they can't, so they create prison
for them. That's right. Yeah.
And that's
You
one of the
ain't going.
things too. When they don't get the help in the beginning, then they don't like school through the rest of the years, and
right.
it's not because
Right.
school is just awful. It's just
No,
because
they
don't
didn't
have
get
the
the basics. They
understanding
didn't
and
get the basics. Absolutely.
So
If you don't
then-
get the basics, you can't do anything.
Right. So you build each year. You build on that foundation.
Right.
So if you don't have the foundational principles, of course you're not going to like school
Right.
because it's miserable. Because everyone else is on level and reading aloud, and then you can't read aloud and you're embarrassed.
Right.
So then you lash out, and you have all these behavioral issues and emotional issues. And it's like everything could be resolved in the beginning if you get those foundational principles and not just passing kids through because you just need to get them out of your class or get them through the system, because that is a disservice for them and it's not fair.
I appreciate what you said, Dr. Benjamin, about being in and I know this is not, as you say, politically correct, Latricia, but I totally agree. We're dealing with a European system that was not created for us. We were not supposed to be, operating in this area, in this dynamic. And so we have acclimated ourselves into this, and so now assimilated ourselves into this, and now we're paying the piper, so to speak. And so instead of doing what we need to do to get our communities back, we're constantly trying to bridge ourselves into something that was never built for us. It was never made for us. It was never created for us. And so we have to do our due diligence and take back our villages, take back our communities. Because if we don't, we're so behind. And I do Technology Tuesdays on Tuesday, so y'all can, and we talk about this, like we are so behind, not just on technology and everything, but especially in technology. Robots, they're here. They're taking over. It's not going to be any more need for us. If you're not in a position to be an entrepreneur or create something yourself, you're out. Literally, you're out. There ain't gonna be no more McDonald's jobs. There ain't gonna be no more Walmart jobs. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be you're out. You're out. So it's important. I love the literacy program because, like you said, I think a lot of times, and it is a lot of laziness. It's a lot of lackadaisicness and denial on our parts, because we see these things and we turn a blind eye, and parents see these things and they're stressed and they're tired but you have to. This is your child. This is your. If we don't pour into them, who will?
Right.
Absolutely. And, education has to be reformed, and we have to include all paths in it, literacy, health, literacy, finances, literacy.
Yes.
And because in our society, if we continue, they talk about dropouts at high school. They don't drop out of high school. They dropped out early before high school. They just get all the way to high school.
Exactly.
They just get all the way to high school and drop out. It's like, okay, what the heck? But, our society, we suffer because we lose earnings. We lose taxes and productivity because our young people cannot cut it. But we can change it. That's the purpose of why we're on this phone today, is to be able to change. We have a lot of statistics. There are a lot of stats out there. But once you get the statistical data, then what are you going to do? And I read the data that said 90% of African American males by the time of 5th grade can't read. Mm-hmm. So now they're going, they said crime and illiteracy, there's a correlation.
Yeah.
To know that, you understand what I'm saying? If you know it, then what do? Do you still continue? Like people say, well, the school, parents want to come. I was an educator and I was a principal, and they want to come and cuss me out. I said, look, I'm not the one. I'm not the one that used to be cussing out. I'm not the one, first of all, that you going to cuss out. Number one, you're not going to cuss out.
Right.
I'm just not the one. You can threaten me all you want, but I'm just as crazy as you are. I just happen to be crazy and intelligent. I'm not taking that kind of foolishness when you come and tell me my son only missed by 5 points and you ain't going to let him walk the stage. That's not 5 points, 5%. That he failed to do it, and you failed to help him, and now you want to say, I'm keeping him from graduating. You're losing your mind. You can threaten me, but I am not changing, because I'm here for the salvation of your child, not for your stupidity. And this is what happens with us, because we get afraid and we think, oh, God, I'm going to get fired. Look, fire me, because I'm going to do what's right.
That's right.
I'm going to break the rules. if I have to. I'm serious. I've broken so many rules. They should have fired me, but I've broken so many rules to make sure that the kids was getting what they needed. Because if we don't do it, if someone doesn't do it,
That's
and I'm
right.
one to do it, I'm the girl to do it. That's why I said I open literacy centers. I challenge pastors. You have a building. You have young people. How could they speak in tongues and can't read in English?
Wow.
There is a problem.
It is. There is a problem.
And it takes a village. It really does. And I think we've kind of forgotten that. You hear the saying, but no one actually applies the fact that it does take a village and everyone play their role. Everyone's just kind of independent of it. So.
It's crazy. So solutions. Give me some solutions, Dr. Benjamin.
Well, one of them, y'all talked about it earlier, is that we really have to get to, first of all, I believe in getting to the child first.
Yeah.
You win the child, you win the parent.
That's right. Yeah.
You win the child and you win the parents. If we get our children out of the bed and get into their heads, you know, that's lazy out of the bed, those that are having sex before the time to have it. If we could get in their heads, we will win the parents. Once we win the parents, then we also set up systems. We have to set up systems to deal with illiteracy, to deal with illiteracy even in health, to deal with this mental situation that has plagued our culture of people. Because like you said, Johnny, I beat him. No, you can't beat Johnny. You can't beat the devil out of Johnny. And you can't beat intelligence into Johnny. What you have to do is recognize where he is and start with him on his level of understanding and continue to build. And if we do that, if we connect with one another, I'm not the one to push them into sports immediately. I'm the one to help you that if they're in sports and they can't read, let's create the environment to deal with that. Let's create that environment instead of just pushing them through to make money. So there are a lot of things out there, Dr. Kiva, that we could do if we would connect with one another and find each other's strength and then work with each other's strength. I'm not a one-man band. You know, I'm not the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger had Tonto anyway. You understand? Batman had Robin.
That's right.
You know, we need each other in this, because if we don't, parents, wake up. Our kids are either going to be in jail or dead.
That's it.
And we have to do something about it.
Look,
and that's what I'm about. That's what I'm about.
Yes.
And I will connect with anyone. You want me to deal with the literacy piece? I got you.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love it. All right, Latricia, solutions, mental health or the other.
Mental health is just really just going to get help. You know, if you can't afford, like I said, if you can't afford therapy out of pocket, you know, Kiva gave the crisis line, it was
877-975-4286.
And you can call that number and speak to a therapist, and they will refer you to a location that has free or sliding rate
yes.
to get services. You can definitely contact me. I'm at ATL Psychotherapy and Consulting, and I'm on social media, www.facebook.com/Latricia Pitts LPC, and just get the assistance that you need. And if you're confused and unsure, and like, I don't really even know what I need to do at this point, you can always call me and get a consultation for 15 minutes, and it's absolutely free, and I can give you some guidance on what you need. But we really just need to make sure that we are investing in ourselves and getting ourselves the help that we need, and there's no stigma to it. Just get the help that you need to be able to thrive and live a functional and happy life. You know, your life should be whole and full of joy and peace, not chaos and miserable and distracted. You know, you can't fulfill your calling with a lot of negativity in your life, so just reach out for help. And, you know, I'll refer, I'll help, you know, call to the radio station, talk to Professor Kiva, anything. I just think we need to work as a community and as a village and help one another. And I'm all for it.
Tell them how to find you, Dr. Benjamin.
Say that again. I didn't get that.
Tell them where and how to find you.
The best way, Newtown Literacy and Technology Center, located in New Wine Gateway Ministries International. We're connected because I'm also the senior pastor of the church. And the best way to get me is to call me at 439-9922, because you know our emails fill up too fast and I don't get them because I want to. So the best way to get me, once again, is Dr. Roma Benjamin, 717-439-9922. I'll walk you through whatever you need to establish literacy centers in your communities.
Love it. Love it. All right, it's 7:57. It is another great show, Mental Health Awareness Series. Again, we're going to continue this for the next few weeks, talking about mental health. I say this all the time. We invest in everything else. We get life insurance. We get health insurance. We get why don't we invest in our mental health to leave our children a legacy of health and wealth and wholeness? And so same thing when it comes to literacy. We have to pass something down to our children besides a bill and some debt. And so it is so important that we understand that that is an investment. It's not just leaving them money or material things. If we don't leave them some intelligence and some wholeness, then we're doing a disservice not only to them but to ourselves and to the next generation. So please, I know you heard it right here. First of all, make sure that you can read. And if you can't read, get some help. And then make sure that your child can read. That is important. Like,
very.
Y'all can learn with it.
Next, don't be ashamed. And I know we're laughing, but please don't be ashamed because this is a serious issue. She said, did she say 32 million people?
Yeah.
32 million. That's 14% of our population.
Jesus, we're only 13% of the population, okay? We're only 13% of the population. So, I mean, come on. And then next, get some help. Seek help. It's nothing wrong with seeking help. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength. It's not going to take away from your faith. It's going to increase it. So please go get some help. It is okay to ask for help. It is not going to, you'll be glad you did. I'll just leave it there.
And you can call me at 404-913-2033. That's 404-913-2033. And I will help you, guide you, schedule a session, refer you, or do whatever it is that you need. And if I don't know, I'll figure it out. And you'll find that I try to be the most helpful person I could possibly be, because like I said, I want us to just thrive as a community and as a whole. So wherever I can refer you and help you, I am so open and willing to do that.
So again, this show has proven to you alone that it is you have 2-3 people here saying they're going to help you. That alone is a start. So there's really no excuse. Again, if you have any questions and comments, or if you want to reach these ladies, I will put it all on social media as well. But you can call or email us at powerupmornings@gmail.com or 108praiseradio.com. And we will get you their information. Make sure that you get in contact with them. Again, if you're interested in opening a literacy center in your church, please, I mean, it's needed. It's awesome. Like, we need that right now for everybody. I can't even say for kids, for everybody. Because like you said, I know so many adults who cannot read, functioning adults. And so it's been a great show, Motivational Mondays here on Power Mornings. Join us tomorrow right here, same time, same place, 6 to 8 a.m. Technology Tuesday, where we're going to talk about how we're lagging behind in this country. We're 20 years behind. We're losing jobs. We're losing people to technology. And Cairo Queen is going to be with us. She's going to tell you how to make money online from technology jobs as well. But I appreciate both of my guests today. Awesome guests, Latricia Pitts and Dr. Benjamin. Thank you so much, Dr. Benjamin, for calling in. Great information. And again, we'll be back here next Monday on talking about mental health. We're going to deal with suicide next week because that is so important in this Suicide Awareness Month. So I think that's it. I'm Professor Kiva Green. I hope you have a blessed day. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
You too.
All right.
Blessings.
Thank you. Blessing. Bye-bye.